And here we are. Welcome back to the Redshirt Sophomore. We never sit out. We're your hosts, MD and CD. Today, we're in Conference Championship Week. We are, I mean, 6 days away from 5 days away from, you know, having the names announced for the college football playoffs. We're what? What are they different? 4 days out from the majority of these games being played. 3 days out from some of these games being played on Friday night. I mean, this came on us pretty fast. We got 9 games. That's right, 9 games we're previewing today. If you've been with us the whole season, we normally preview 8 games. But because there's 9 conference championship games, we are not leaving any stones unturned. We're looking at all these. All of these lines are under a touchdown, which is awesome. Okay. Some of these lines moved pretty early, and I'm kind of pissed I didn't move on some of these lines when they did move. I'm looking at Tulane. But here we are, and I'm loving the slate. I have 5 best bets this week, which normally like an 8 game, 9 game slate. That's a ton. That is a ton. I don't normally have that many, but for some reason, I have some convictions. You've also got 3 best bets for us this week, and we're going to be absolutely picking winners. So, CD, how are we feeling this week?
Fantastic. I can't wait. This is going to be another great week. Obviously, you got a lot fewer college football games than you are used to in the regular season, but man, oh man, do they mean stuff. Not only just for playoffs, but it's freaking conference championship. Like, we're previewing all of them because they all matter. These teams work their tail off to get to a spot to be playing December football. December football is special. This weekend has always been special the last 10 or so years. And we're happy to give our flowers and our props to these programs, these coaches, these fans, and these players. We can't wait. Can't wait to get into it, man.
Yeah. And with that being said, if you like the content and you're watching this, please like the video. If you're listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button if you want to be with us for the bowl season, which, by the way, December 14th. That's when that starts, by the way. 11 days. Okay. Once these bowl matchups kind of get figured out, we'll be sending out stuff, and you guys can join our bowl pool. Probably be sending it out in the next couple of days, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. I'll try to get that organized ASAP so you guys can join that. But in order to participate, you're going to have to be subscribed. So you might as well do that right now. If you're listening on Spotify, we love you too, but you are going to have to skedaddle over to YouTube. Everyone's got a Google account. Everyone's got a YouTube account. All right, hit that subscribe button if you want to be a part of that as the postseason starts rolling around. There'll be prizes for that. Alrighty. With that being said, let's just get into it. Okay, we're looking at this first game, the CUSA Western Kentucky. It's going to Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State. I mean, this game just played out last week, right? However, it was at Western Kentucky. Tyler Huff got hurt. Logan Smothers came in. Western Kentucky ended up going down late in that game because Logan Smothers led a touchdown drive. And then Western Kentucky kicked the field to win the game. This line now is at Jacksonville State minus 4.5 after being plus 1.5 at Western Kentucky last week. I don't know the status of Tyler Huff. I don't. I know you were trying to find stuff on that. I still have to take Jacksonville State minus 4.5, right? I mean, that's just you have to.
I'm with you here too. Even if Tyler Huff doesn't play, actually Smothers, first of all, super experienced. Won him a lot of games last year. I know we talked about him before on this show. Anytime he's in the game, it is kind of scary as well. But he came in and I thought did some nice things. Obviously, this is a ground and pound team. They were still able to run for 229 yards. Obviously, a lot of that was from Tyler Huff, and especially that big 50-yard run that he had when he was still in the game. But I think Trey Stewart's going to have a big game here. He's a guy that's going to need to take over, I think, especially if Smothers is playing. This is interesting because, like, how often do we get in college football teams playing each other in back-to-back weeks, especially when one team already knows their destiny, right? So I wonder if, not that they were trying to lose the game at all. That's not what I'm saying. But I do wonder if Rich Rod is smart enough and veteran enough to realize, hey, this is what we got. We still have a massive game next week. Yeah, being undefeated in Conference USA is fantastic. Obviously, eliminating Western Kentucky and Tyson Helton would be great. But the reality is they don't have to win in week 14. They got to win in week 15. And they knew that. And Western Kentucky had to win. And it was a ball game. They had a 50-some yard field goal right in Conference USA to win that. It was fantastic. So I feel good about Jacksonville State here. Obviously, if I knew Tyler Huff was going to be playing and be fully healthy, it would be a lot more convicted. Probably be on the best bets, but the line might be a little bit higher. Also, we don't know what happened in the second half of that game if Tyler Huff did play. Even if he does play too, I'm not going to expect him to be just himself. He's one of the most dynamic players in all of the Conference USA, but all of college football, right? One of two quarterbacks to have over 2,000 passing yards and over 1,000 rushing yards, him and Devin Dampier over in New Mexico. Also, it's a short week too, Friday night. So it's Saturday to Friday night. He has one less day to get ready, and that ankle, potentially might not be feeling great. And even if he does go, you could see some of that mobility being limited. It does also worry me that Western Kentucky, to play a little devil's advocate here, they ran 84 plays last week to Jacksonville State's 61.
Yeah.
Right? We talk about short week. We talk about rest. Everyone is banged up at this point in the season. You saw that Jacksonville State team get a little bit more worn down in that second half. You saw the defense give up some plays. Jacksonville State also offensively did not capitalize on third downs. That's something I think flips in this game, especially with a better game plan, knowing you might have some others in, knowing you might have Huff, whatever it may be. I trust Rich Rod in the spot here. Give me Jacksonville State -4.5.
I do too. I mean, controlling the football was something that Western Kentucky did that I thought Jacksonville State was going to do last week. If Jacksonville State is the team that ends up, converting those third and shorts, right? I mean, Western Kentucky faced 20 third downs last week, and they converted a decent amount of them, right? 7. Just being able to hold on to the football, being able to extend those drives was key. But are you going to win this game if Caden Veldkamp has to throw the ball 47 times? I don't know. I think Caden Veldkamp is a stud, but he's had ups and he's had downs. Okay. And in this spot, when you got to go on the road now, I think that environment's going to be bumping. I think they're going to be excited. I think that school is getting exactly what they deserve right now, the recognition, the attention, the love. And I think these players are ready. And I'm with you. I think Trey Stewart has a big game. I think if Tyler Huff plays, he has a big game. And Logan Smothers, like you said, okay, we have not been kind to Logan Smothers on this show. We have not. Last year, I've been on Jacksonville State too many times early in the season to know that Logan Smothers is not my favorite quarterback. Right. However, if he's handing the ball off to the left, he's handing the ball off to the right, he does have sneaky mobility. If he's scrambling for first downs, if he's converting on those and extending drives, and you're the one with the 36 minutes time of possession to their 23 last week, then I think Jacksonville State's going to win, and I think they're going to cover this 4.5. So I'm with you on that one. Even though Western Kentucky just bit Jacksonville State last week for a chance at a rematch to win the CUSA, I think Western Kentucky. This was weird because they had been on a schneid, and I maybe it was just a trap line. I don't know what Vegas was, what they knew. I mean, they got me, hook, line, and sink. I bid all over that line on Jacksonville State +1.5, and you did too. I just don't see. I like Jacksonville State again. Sue me, sue us for liking Jacksonville State again. A very good football team that is adept at running the football against a team that generally is not good at stopping the run. Generally,
Well, they're last in the CSA in stopping the run. They are 10 out of 10, giving up over 208 yards per game. Yikes! Teams are running the ball 517 times on that. Not only are they running the ball a lot, they're having success with it, over 4.8 yards per carry. Yeah, I'm with you. All the reasons you said. It is interesting. We love Veldkamp here. Obviously, everyone remembers him from the bowl game this time last December. He came in
he
and
is a
lit the
December
world
kid.
up, which is awesome. So we love our bowl game heroes, and we love to see them make plays the year after. But yeah, you said it's so hard to beat teams twice in a row. It is so hard. Can I ask you this here too? Like, if you're Jacksonville State, and obviously I say this with all due respect to Western Kentucky, because I think they've had a good year and they bounced back. We thought they were dead in the water, and I give them a ton of credit for battling back and beating Jacksonville State, right, at home, all that good stuff. But if you're Jacksonville State and you're seeing the way things were shaken down, you saw how the Friday game went with Sam Houston and Liberty. It was either going to be playing Sam Houston and that defense or Western Kentucky and Caden Veldkamp in that offense, right? Not that you threw the game at all. That's not what I'm saying. But if you're a Jacksonville State fan, right, and you could pick whether to play Western Kentucky or Sam Houston, where would it be?
If I'm a Jacksonville State fan, I'm picking Western Kentucky.
I think so too. And I think you just match up a little bit better because I think if you can't run the ball against Sam Houston, which they've been really good against the run, like 3.9 yards per carry good against the run, that would be a problem. That would be a real problem. But
I agree, but yeah, that would have been interesting too because I don't think. Well, I think Casey Keeler would still be on the sidelines, right? And then their defense coordinator got hired away, or their defense coordinator got hired away somewhere. I feel like.
yeah, you're
Maybe I
right.
was thinking last year when he went to the New Mexico State, but whatever. I'm with you though. I think Sam Houston's better fit to compete physically with Jacksonville State. However, if Caden Veldkamp is playing to his ceiling and Western Kentucky gets enough stops on third down like they did last week, yeah, obviously there's a formula to win. They literally won last week. But yeah, I just can't be talked out of Jacksonville State here.
Can Smothers win you this game? Let's say you're not running the ball great.
Yes. Oh, if you're not running the ball great, no, he cannot.
So he was 4 for 6 of 60 yards, right? You only threw the ball what 17 times all game, and a lot of it was
Mm-hmm.
checkdowns too. Even Huff when he was in wasn't super effective. Um,
But they
yeah,
still ran the ball. Like when he was in, they still ran the ball a ton.
yeah.
Their game plan did not change.
No, and that's what's nice about them. And to be honest, like you see a lot of teams who have backup quarterbacks and they really struggle or they don't have experience or whatever happened. You have to change your entire offense to get to them. Credit Rich Rod and his staff for yeah, you have Tyler Huff, most dynamic player in the CUSA, but some others, right? It doesn't change too much. Obviously, it's scaled down a little bit in terms of maybe your explosiveness, but in terms of what you can run and what you can't, yeah, I think this is in terms of drop off of like week to week and giving you prep. Yeah, I don't think this is as crazy as I would have maybe thought losing the CUSA Player of the Year potential.
Well, on the Western Kentucky side, if your quarterback goes down as well, you also have a pretty good option that can sling the pill in this offense.
Is TJ
And
Finley
TJ,
he's still there?
yeah, I believe so. I don't think he's.
I haven't heard anything otherwise. I was curious. I took him in a
Yeah,
fantasy draft because I was like, the upside is there with Tyson Helton or Tyson Helton, and you know,
yeah, that was the one spot. Well, see, I was the bozo in the when we do our recaps of those. I was the bozo in the running backs. I think you were the bozo, and when it came to the quarterbacks and then wide receivers, I think we both just did our best because there were so many that came out of nowhere,
oh
and
yeah,
a bunch of them that just totally flopped. But yeah, well, whatever. We'll move on. Let's talk about Tulane playing against Army. I mean, this line's under a touchdown. This line opened at 4, got bet up to 6 for good reason. Okay, Tulane is a damn good football team. I know that they lost last week to Memphis. Okay, but Memphis, week in and week out, when you look at what they do offensively, when they string together a couple stops, Seth Hennigan, Mario Anderson, Rock Taylor, whatever, whomsoever that they have on that offensive side of the football, they're going to score points on you. Okay, if they're forcing turnovers and getting stops, weird stuff happens. All right, that's fine. So Tulane was knocked out of playoff contention. All right, that does not mean that they're not playing for an American championship right now. I mean, they're in this. All right, to win this. Army obviously is playing for a lot as well. Army's also only played 11 games this year. Army has ran the ball pretty much better than anyone in the entire country. But when Army played against their first kind of stingent defense of the year, they struggled and got rocked. Now, they did put up some points. There were times when Bryson Daly was able to move the football, but it was just Bryson Daly. I like Tulane in this spot. I think John Summerall's a fantastic coach. I think that their defense is very, very solid. I know that they just got by Memphis, but And when I'm looking at their schedules, right, I also think Tulane's defense and Army's defense, metrically, you're looking, I'm like, oh my God, these are top 15 defenses. They both benefited from pretty not good schedules. So if I'm going to talk bad about Army's defense and with regards to the schedule, I think Tulane's metrics are also impacted by that as well. You look Louisiana, put in work against Tulane, but that offense also put in work against everyone. Oklahoma put in work. Kansas State put in work against that defense. So there is a world in which Army can move the football against this defense. It's not impossible, right? And I think that they just might. Okay, but I also think that Tulane's offensive line and their running back Mekhi Hughes just might be physical enough to outlast this Army defense. And when Army's trying to control the football, Tulane just might say, no, 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 we're going to control the football. We're going to be the ones running the ball down your throats, and we're going to be the ones trying to find a way to win this football game. I would be severely impressed. Like, I don't think like we can talk about the fact that Army's in this game right now is pretty remarkable. Okay, to me, that's remarkable. The fact that Army's playing for an American Conference Championship. If they win this game, that would be unbelievable. You're talking about a one-loss season where they win the American Conference Championship. I get that their schedule isn't good enough to make it to the college football playoffs, but holy cow, would that be awesome?
It really would. You said it. I think the interesting part you brought up metrically about these two defenses, a stat I like to look at in different people at different things, but just opponent adjusted offensive and defensive efficiency. You look at Army and Tulane offensively, opponent adjusted. Doesn't matter who they're playing. It's kind of like scaled, normalized, whatever. They're both in the top 25, which is very, very impressive. Defensively, like you said, they move more towards the middle there. Army's down at 63. Tulane is a little bit higher at 43. That's a great point there. I like Tulane in this spot. Obviously, would love to get them at 4. But we're picking them up. What are we picking them at 6 right now? Is that what?
Picking them at 6, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll take the 6 because I do think a touchdown, anything on a touchdown, I still like Tulane. And I like them pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, but it'll be interesting because we'll see how Tulane responds. They did have, the long week, which is great. Although I think Army as well, they had a couple weeks to get ready for this, which was, I think beneficial for the. Actually, no, I'm sorry. They played 11 games because they have Navy next week, but yeah, so they played UTSA, and it's actually a pretty close game there. It'll be interesting to see. They did dominate time possession. Very good for them. But yeah, so I don't know. I like Tulane in this spot. -6. You said all the good reasons for it. I do think also like third down. I look at third downs like so important in these read option type teams. Third and fourth down, like they usually are so good. But if you can stop them and stop them early in their drives, you really have a chance to go up early and potentially, put this game out of reach or put Army in spots that they don't want to be at. A la Notre Dame did that twice to Navy and Army as well. Tulane is second in the American in opponent third down conversions. That's got to be huge. They have to be stingent in that when it does matter on third and fourth down. But Army, on the other hand, they're not very good at getting off the field too. So if you can get off the field early, if you're Tulane, you can really stop, Bryson Daly in that offense and make them be in a spot they don't want to be or aren't comfortable being. That could be huge. As well as if you're controlling time possession, right? You're second, or if you're taking them off third down conversions, or you're extending plays on or extending drives on your third downs, it'd be huge, huge. And Mekhi, so good.
Yeah, but like you said, like Army, they don't waste a lot of opportunities. They're unbelievable on third down. They're great on fourth down. They're great in the red zone. They're not penalized at all. In fact, they're 38 penalty yards per game, which is like top 10 in the entire country. They don't really make those mistakes. And you did see Tulane, okay, beat the absolute snot out of Navy, but you did see Blake Horvath go down in that game pretty early. And I don't think it's doing either offense justice to just compare Navy to Army's offense. I think they have similar aspects to them, right? They're similar formations, but they're different. All right, they are different. But the fact that Tulane absolutely pissed on Navy does give me confidence in their ability to make adjustments to an offense like this. So yeah, I'm with you. I like Tulane in this spot, and I see the Army angle, right? If someone was to tell me, yeah, I kind of like Army +6, I don't hate that. I don't hate that. I'll say for sure that Tulane won't be on my best bets, but I could definitely see I could see both angles there for sure. I just happen to like Tulane more when we're just picking these games straight up. If you're trying to compare apples to oranges here, I like the apples.
This, by the way, real quick, it's in New York, right? So it's going to be at West Point. So this is not a neutral site. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if you mentioned this is not a neutral site out of conference game. The American doesn't have that site, so it's going to be in Army will be home, which is part of the reason why that line, is maybe where it's at, as well as Tulane had a chance to beat Memphis last week to clinch home field advantage for them, but they did not. So Army gets it. They're undefeated in conference. Hell of a year for them. So they get to host the American Conference Championship.
Which is nuts. Although Army, they
If
didn't
I,
have to play. Did they even play? Did they play Memphis?
they didn't play Memphis. They didn't play
They didn't play
Memphis, nor
Tulane.
they haven't played Navy yet either.
Well, yeah, I mean they play them next
They
week,
play
right?
exactly. But the interesting part too is a lot of people talk about SMU coming in the ACC, and then Oregon and Texas coming in the Big Ten and the SEC. This is Army's first year in the American, by the way. I know the American is a
Yeah,
different conference today than it was just a couple years ago, but I still think that's really, really impressive. And hats off to the American for going out and finding Army and getting them in their conference and having the success they've had already and giving them some national attention as well.
yeah. I'll say. I'm pretty sure when I'm well pull these guys up. Do we include Army on our easiest schedules of 2024 list? I thought I had it in a playlist already, but I thought I could have sworn we had one of the military schools, but uh, I know we actually had Notre Dame as one of the easier schedules in college football. Not that they're normally an easier schedule, but
It was the way the
because
home field, the home
yeah,
away
the way it
split.
was, and it ended up, I guess the military schools kind of bumped up that schedule a little bit, and but yeah, I mean, we actually when you look at Notre Dame's schedule
We
now
kind
with
of
A and M
nailed
going
it.
8, yeah, going 8-4, and then
USC, Florida
USC,
State,
yeah, it
Louisville is
ended
a
up
little bit of
it
down.
ended up being like way worse than we even thought we were, but whatever. This isn't a Notre Dame video. This is freaking Tulane Army American Championship video. Let's go. Tulane -6. Let's go over to the Mountain West. A rematch with honestly like one of the most underrated football games of the entire year. UNLV and Boise State, when they played last time, that was a pretty back and forth game. That was Haj Malik Williams early in his tenure there at UNLV. Ashton Genty was held to his lowest season rushing total of the entire year. I, Boise State's -4. This one's in Boise, Idaho, right?
It's
All
in
right, see,
Boise,
this
Idaho.
is
Correct.
Boise,
Sorry.
Idaho.
Yes.
This line is at 4. I liked UNLV last time, and I was going back and just looking like at our picks, from that game that was early in the season. I was on UNLV, you were on Boise State, and I still like UNLV in this spot. I do. I think UNLV's been playing good football. I know that they had a scare a couple weeks ago against a maybe not great football team, but I just think, okay, I know that Boise State's going to try to scheme up some more stuff for Ashton Genty, but this is also December Ashton Genty. Okay, I know it's going to be a little bit frigid, maybe up in Boise, Idaho. I don't know what the weather's going to be looking like there on Friday night. That maybe plays into Ashton Genty's advantage, but I also think that we are what 250 carries later from not that Ashton Genty has slowed down in terms of his production, but I do think that this is a level of defense that he has not seen in weeks.
Correct. Correct. I will also say, remember, he did get banged up midway through that game. He had, I think, it's like a knee kind of messed up, and then also his arm as well. I think he's healthier now than he was in the middle of that game for sure. But you're right. I mean, he's at what 300 some carries, 312, even more touches in the air. So yeah, it's definitely something worth noting. But it's going to be in the mid 30s. I know Woodyard's good. I know Catalan's good for UNLV. I like Boise State in this. Their opponent adjusted. I talked about this in the previous. Their opponent adjusted offensive efficiency for Boise State. So no matter who they're going against, you take strength of schedule out of it. They are eighth in offensive efficiency in the country. That is really, really good. UNLV is down at 52nd, although I would have thought it would have been higher because I really like the way that they do move the football. But eighth to me is very, very impressive. I know UNLV is the top Mountain West team against the run, but I think at home makes a huge difference. I think Genty is eyeing a Heisman. I still believe it, and I think you do too, that he should still be in the running, and that maybe there should be a conversation about that being had. Obviously, props and respect to Hunter and Gabriel and Cameron, whoever else you think it may be, but if you want to talk about potential way to put your stamp, you talk about 250 yards on Friday night, potential spot where this is potentially a feature game because it is a de facto play-in game with the way things shaked out with Tulane and Army the past couple weeks there in the American. Yeah, I think Genty will have 40 carries. I also think, too, I really like the way Mad Max has been playing. Maddox Madsen has been efficient when called upon. You got Camper there. I think he's been solid. And remember back in the UNLV game, he actually played pretty damn well. He used his legs as well. I think that could be a big factor. But yeah, Genty with 40 carries with nothing to lose, a couple weeks of rest until potential, playoff game. I like Boise State in this spot. Although I do think there's a coaching edge here to UNLV and Barry Odom.
I do too. I do too. And I guess I forgot to mention as well that UNLV Boise State game last time was in Las Vegas, right?
Yes.
So that's a big deal. All right, having that home away flipped there. But I know Hodge Malik Williams hasn't been perfect, but you're right about that offensive efficiency stat. I'm very shocked that UNLV's offensive efficiency is as low as it is. Um, I think that they've been able to throw the ball well. I think Ricky White is going to do just absolutely stupid stuff. All right, I think he's going to do stupid stuff. We've seen him block punts all year. We've seen him, have 200-yard receiving games. We've seen him. He has been lights out. He has been lights out. And I believe you took him in our fantasy draft, and that was just an absolutely unbelievable pick by you right there, by the way. But he's a dog. Okay. I think like when you're looking at the superstars in this game, I actually believe there's more superstars on UNLV than there is on Boise State. I don't think that's crazy to say. I do think the offensive line for Boise State is an edge, but I think UNLV's defensive line and front seven in general is pretty dang solid. So I do think that there's still a level of talent that can compete with that offensive line. If you are Boise State, right, and Ashton Genty gets shut down, what's nice though this season is that you've seen Mad Max play really good football throughout the conference slate. You've seen him play really good football. So guys like Austin Bolt, Cam Camper, right? Like I can still trust Boise State through the air. I just like UNLV in this spot. If you're gonna give me the four, I'll take the four, and I guess I might as well take UNLV to win as well. So, uh, but that's where I'm at. But if you're telling me like at a neutral site that this game is basically a pick 'em between these two teams, I would believe that, and that's kind of what this spread is telling us.
Yeah, I do think the two edge defenders there for Boise are pretty dynamic. They're both in the top three there in sack leaders, the Mountain West. In addition to like in terms of tackles for loss, like which would be I think a huge stat in this game because both teams love to stay ahead of the chains and love to run the football, right? And yes, they are explosive and they don't need they can convert third and long, but like tackles for loss here, I think is going to be a key stat or tackles for, two or fewer gains. I wish there was a spot there like defensive wins. I know PFF has a stat that's like, defensive stop, and it's like a stop that happens when it's less than the offense should have happened. However you calibrate that, don't quite know for sure, but I do think that's going to be like the hidden yardage here is like, are you breaking tackles if you're Genty? If you're UNLV, are you winning on first and second down as well? And then what's going to happen here in special teams as well? I think obviously I think UNLV's pretty damn good on special teams, and I trust what they can do. They're not penalized. Like they're just a really really coached team. I I think Boise State rises up though, and I think they get it done, especially if you get up early at home. I think that crowd will be going nuts. I hope this game gets a ton of spotlight because it deserves it. We have talked Mountain West a lot this year. This will be on Fox, 7 o'clock Central Time, 5 o'clock local, 6 o'clock local time. I think Mountain Time, Boise.
They are Mountain Time, I believe.
6 o'clock local time, still prime time there. Yeah, I think it'll be a fantastic time for the Mountain West, but be able to showcase their conference there on national television and potentially showcase their Heisman Trophy winner to some voters who finally going to watch a full Genty game.
Yeah, I agree. Who they probably haven't watched one in a while. I guess I'm sure there are Heisman voters watching that game last week. Hopefully they're watching. Travis Hunter and Ashton Gent at the same time, who both played out of their minds. By the way, so respect to those guys. Let's head over to the Big 12, perhaps the wildest conference of the entire season. I saw on Twitter, I forget who posted it. I wish I could give them credit, but they basically posted the final Big 12 rankings relative to the preseason voting of the media members that went to Big 12 Media Days. And it is unbelievable how terrible they got this. How we got this.
Did
Like
anybody? Yeah.
we did not have this Big 12 playing out, shaking out the way that it did. And we've you and I've talked about how good Kenny Dillingham is and how we are both bought in on Kenny Dillingham being a stud and a star as a coach and as a coordinator. He's been really good. But here he is against Matt Campbell, who, by the way, a program that's also hungry for a Big 12 championship. And are they just going to let Arizona State walk into the Big 12, and just take a Big 12 championship for them, something that they've never accomplished themselves? I don't know. I think Matt Campbell's going to have those boys ready. I think Kenny Dillingham's going to have those boys ready. I think that this game is going to be awesome. And the matchups here are very, very interesting. You got Iowa State, which is a pretty balanced offense. Rocco Beck slinging the pill. You got some superstars. I say superstars. You got some really good athletes and speedsters at running back, at wide receiver, and at tight end. You also got a good talent there. I think you have a really solid offense there for Iowa State. Front seven that struggled this year. You've battled some injuries for Iowa State. You've given up a lot of yardage on the ground in multiple games. And Arizona State is just a team that is so well coached. They just come out in the first quarter and kick your teeth in, and then let Brian Ward kind of unleash the dogs and just hold on for dear life. But Sam Leavitt has been one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country in terms of taking care of the football. All right, he's been unbelievably efficient as a redshirt freshman. At the running back spot, Cam Scadaboo has been ridiculous. Jordan Tyson, not that he came out of nowhere, right? But he kind of did. I didn't expect Jordan Tyson to be like over 1,000 yards basically for the season. Like, it happened the ridiculous year that he is. He has been unbelievable.
It sucks he's not going to play though. I
Yeah,
it is a big time loss there, but you said it
but
like
you
there's.
you still have talent there at receiver. You still do.
I think that's the thing there. They're interesting. They're kind of like SMU in the fact that they just got a lot of guys. Not that they're all replaceable, but I think it's the way that they scheme things up and the bodies in that room there. I'm not
The
too
buy-in.
worried. But yeah, and you got some tight end depth there with Mateer kind of coming on as we're getting there. I look to the defensive side here for Arizona State, and Welch and Abney and those two kids are very, very good defensively. They need to get after it because you've got a couple very good receivers in Higgins for Iowa State and Noel, and they got Kansas State on third down when they needed spots there. They went to those two and they schemed things up and they really got it going. I will say this, I say this every time in our Iowa State videos. You have to run the football though. Iowa State, you have three running backs you like. Abu Sama has come on strong as of late. He had a really nice Farmageddon game. To me, he has to be a guy that you rely upon to get yardage, especially early in this game. You cannot go away from the run, even if Arizona State jumps on you. They have jumped on everybody since they've been really hot. They have just jumped out to great leads, and credit that coaching staff for having those players ready to play right away. But you see teams start to panic, and you see teams maybe start to fumble. in that first half, and then they settle in the second half and they stick to their game plan and they get things going. To me, offensively, if you're Iowa State here, run the football. I love Rocco Beck. I love Noel. I love Higgins. I love all those guys. But to me, it's about running the football, controlling the clock, because you're damn sure know that Scatabo and that they're going to do that to you, right? Scatabo, they're going to do that to you because he's a really good football player. Your run defense maybe is not quite what you wanted it to be coming into the season, and damn it, man, Arizona State's really good on offense, efficient. They're explosive. They do a lot of things that do hurt you. And if you go down early, you cannot abandon the run. Also, you want to take care of the football. Also, you don't want to give them short fields. And you also want to control time possession yourself. Do what they've done to so many Big 12 teams. Do it right back to them.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. Arizona State -2.5. I'll lay it.
Yeah.
Okay, I like them in this spot. I really do. Like you said, getting the early start and then letting Brian Ward do his thing. And I think, and from a run defense perspective, I mean, Arizona State's been solid. You know, if Iowa State does try to run the ball early, I fear that they will abandon the run. I fear that they will. If Arizona State gets up early like they love doing, I have a fear that they will abandon the run. But that also leaves, a lot of points on the table potentially. Which we'll go to the counter later and we'll see what I like in this game. But I'm liking multiple angles here. So yeah, you're laying 2.5. I'm assuming. Is that what you said?
Yeah, I'm with you here. Is we picking at 2.5?
2.5. Yeah.
There are twos out there, though, right?
Oh yeah. For
Friendly
later.
reminder: if you like to gamble, if you like or at least you dabble in that stuff, always shop lines because we pick it at 2.5 because we like to half, we don't like to push, and I think it kind of tests us a little bit more. Let's see where we're really at, make us firm in our conviction, pick a winner as well. But Iowa State too. Last thing here, not only are they not like good rushing the ball, but like what what Arizona State does so well is like chunk plays through the ground, right? And Iowa State is 15th out of 16 teams in the Big 12 and giving up 10 plus yard rushes. The only one that's worse is Oklahoma State, who is well worse than everybody else. That's not in the spot that you want to be grouped with them defensively this year.
No, not at all. Let's head over to the MAC. The only neutral site conference or G5 game. I pretty excited for this game. Get a rematch, right? Miami, Ohio got the best of Ohio last time, but Ohio's been playing good football. Parker Navarro, right? They've been running the football. Their defense has just shown up week in and week out. Miami, Ohio, same way. You got a quarterback playing awesome football right now. Your run game is looking a little bit better. From starting, the season, 1-4, they've bounced back and they've won like 6 games in a row, at least 5 games in a row after that loss to Toledo. They look really stinking good right now, and that defense just, to me, in my eyes, is looking like the best defense in MAC football right now. After losing all the pieces that you did just a season ago, they dominated Bowling Green. They dominated that. So, but it is hard to beat a team twice. We talk about that sometimes in these conference championship games. It's not every day that you get rematches, right? Although, what you got 4 rematches shaping out in this conference championship slate here, which is interesting. Divisionless football. It is what it is, but I can't help but like Miami right here. I know that it's a short favorite. It's 2.5 points. I know you like Ohio, and you have liked Ohio for a while. And if you like Ohio, you can get them at 3. You're going to be paying just a little bit of juice, but no reason to be taking it at 2.5 when you can get it at 3. I sorry, I just sorry. I like Miami of Ohio right here, -2.5.
I don't hate it. I really don't. These two teams are very interesting because if you look at like the statistics defensively, especially, these teams are two of the better teams in the MAC. No surprise with these coaching staffs there. Also looking at your defensive efficiencies, both are top 60 teams, opponent adjusted, which is really impressive there in the MAC because the schedule you're playing is not quite up to what other conferences are playing. with that being said, yeah, I like Ohio in this spot plus 2.5. I know, it's kind of a hike to get up to Detroit there from Athens, but it's a similar, similar drive from just outside of Cincy from where Miami, Ohio is. Yeah, man, it'll be a great game. You mentioned that they played earlier, and Parker Navarro, who has come on really, really strong, especially running the football for them and taking care of the football. He struggled. He struggled mightily in that game. I believe, I don't know, I forget if he got hurt or if he got benched, whatever it was not good for Ohio. Regardless, though, I think he bounces back. He's been taking care of the football, right? He's been running the ball well. He's over 100 yards past couple weeks here. Yeah, I like Ohio in this spot, although I hate picking against Miami, Ohio, because I did it last week, and Bowling Green they just got after Bowling Green. They probably do the same here to Ohio. I think Ohio can get after Brett Gabbert and Ohio and potentially stop the run with Mosey. So yeah, we'll see about it. This is a very intriguing game. Obviously, no college football playoff implications, but we don't care. I think this means a ton. Ohio's got a chance to win 10 games this season. Miami another 9+ win season for them. Back to back MAC championships on the line. This one means a ton there. It'll be an awesome, hopefully, environment there at Ford Field for these two fan bases. Yeah, I mean, obviously a lot going on Saturday in the football slate, especially at maybe the power conference level. But I think this game is awesome and it's definitely something that you need to be able to tune into. Which I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you're watching Ohio versus Miami, Ohio preview. You're probably planning on watching the game, so I don't need to really tell you that. But yeah, I think it'll be awesome.
That would be 3 straight 10-win seasons for the Ohio Bobcats. Which, by the way, last year was the first time that Ohio had back-to-back 10-year wins or 10-year winning seasons. I mean, like, with some of these Power 5 coaching jobs opening up, if Ohio manages to win this game, I think actually regardless if Ohio wins this or doesn't win this, whatever, I think that you might some teams might want to take a peek at Tim Alvin and what he's been doing over there. All right, he has been just phenomenal, phenomenal since he's been there. First year he goes 3-9, and then he just rips off a 10-4, 10-3, and now 9-3 season. After that, in his first 4 seasons at Ohio, that's ridiculous. And it hasn't mattered who's been at quarterback, right? I mean, Curtis Rourke he was banged. They had one good Curtis Rourke year, and then he was banged up. And now they're doing it with Parker Navarro, with his legs. I mean, it's just adaptability, it's adjustments. It's a defense that's been tenacious. They haven't cared whether or not they've gotten absolutely slammed in the transport, which, by the way, they did. Imagine what this team's doing with, Curtis Work, Wingless, Miles Cross, you know, uh, as well as multiple defenders who
Did you say
got taken in
Bangura?
transport. I didn't even say Bangura.
But by the way, he's back in the portal too, which we'll see where he ends up. It's a shame it didn't work out in Minnesota, but yeah, you said, I mean, both these, two of the more underrated coaches in college football. I think that does happen in the back there. I think we got a bunch of them. Pete Lembo obviously coming in, guns
Chris
blazing.
Creighton.
Yep, Chris Creighton's been there for a while. It'll be interesting. I'm trying to find an edge here in this game because these teams, like statistically, their profile is so similar. Obviously, Ohio, a little bit better, offensively in terms of the production that they do put up, about 30 more yards a game. But reality is, I don't think it's that crazy a difference. The other thing is third down percentage as well. A little bit of a difference there in Ohio's opponent third down, like allowing people to get off, like getting off the field. But one thing that I do find interesting too is like, and I know the MAC is so frisky and it's kind of up and down, but I do think in a game with these defenses, like tackles for loss to me are going to be massive. And so you're looking at an Ohio team that's 80 tackles for loss. They're averaging almost 6-7 tackles for loss a game. Ohio is just a little bit under that as well. So obviously that's not that it's super volatile because it is to some extent because sometimes you just miss
And
an
it's
assignment or
matchup.
whatever,
Yeah.
matchup based, and obviously Miami Ohio played a brutal out of conference as well, so that kind of comes into it as well. But yeah, that's why this game is awesome because it's kind of a vibes pick. It's like I've been watching these teams play the past couple weeks, and Ohio to me looks like the best team in the MAC. but obviously no slouch to Mimo How because they're right there with them.
Let's move over to the SEC. Let's go to Atlanta, where Georgia and Texas are rematching from just a month ago, where Georgia absolutely put a beatdown on that Texas offense. And the reason why I say Texas's offense is because Texas's defense in that game played awesome. They gave up 30 points, but I mean, it was short field after short field after short field from Texas just turning the football over. So when I'm looking at this game, I think a lot of people right away will look at this matchup and be like, oh my gosh, Georgia, I mean, killed them last game. Yes, they did. Offensively, though, Carson Beck did not look good in this game. He was seeing ghosts, just like Quinn Ewers was. All right, they ended up putting in Arch Manning, and that didn't work out either. But I do think that there is a new level to this Texas run game that I think we didn't see necessarily a month ago. I think Texas has proved their physicality. I think at this point, Texas has been battle tested in a couple games this year now. Unlike maybe the first time that they played against Georgia, and I think this might be crazy, but I think Texas is going to walk into the SEC and win the SEC in their first season over here in the Southeastern Conference. I think that this 2.5 point spread is a very good line, but I also think Texas is going to win and cover here. So I'm on that boat. I don't think Quinn Ewers even has to play his best football to win this game. I think it's more about it's going to be down more to Carson Beck. What can he do? Is he going to be bad again? Because I don't think the Texas offense is going to be held to 15 points again, or 3 turnovers or 4 turnovers, whatever it was. Right? I think also what was it like 6 or 7 sacks. I think that Texas is going to be more prepared for what Georgia is going to be bringing on the defensive side of the football. For that pass rush. I mean, we've seen Texas hold up against other good pass rushers this season. It just the Georgia game is looking more like an outlier than you know the norm against good pass rushes, right? So I think Texas gets Georgia in this game and wins the SEC.
Yeah, I'm with you there. As crazy as it sounds, but like the reality is, if you watch these teams like throughout the year, like yes, you saw Georgia walk into Austin and kind of stomp on them defensively, especially like you said. It'll be interesting because I do think that Kelvin Banks injury, while the backup came in, I'm forgetting his name right now, he came in and played really, really well in a big time spot, a big time environment. So I do trust him for that. But Kelvin Banks is like one of one, right, in college football. And he also struggled against Mikael Whitley, or not against Mikael Williams, against Walker, the other guy, and it would be um, definitely something to consider if he's not playing, because you did see how when Quinn Ewers does get pressured, bad things do happen. And when A&M got pressure on him, I didn't love the outcome for Texas last week either. You saw the fumble, you saw the interception, different things that happened. When he potentially did get some pressure or some bodies around him. It'll be interesting. I said this again. I said this in the A&M game, more so talking about Wigman, and Arch Manning. But in this game here, we saw those different packages for Arch Manning. You think Texas is going to win? You probably think Quinn Ewers is the starter all throughout, right? You don't see a yeah. I don't
Yeah,
think there's any reason.
I think so. And I know Quinn Ewers' ankle is looking not great right now, but again, his mobility is not what gives him his power, right? He's consistently been a guy, even when he is healthy and quote unquote mobile, he has consistently gone down to pressure, right? He just doesn't do well against pressure. So this all Texas offensive line is going to need to put in work, but I think they can, dude. I think they can. Like you said, that left tackle spot, obviously concerning, but I'm all over Texas in this spot. And I think this is a really good I think this is a really good rematch spot for them. I know it looked really bad last time, but Georgia's touchdowns, weren't they all inside like the 20-yard line? Didn't they get the ball in the red zone those 2 times that they scored?
Yeah,
Three
their
times,
scoring drives. I know we're not. I can double check the exact stats there, but their scoring drives
but
were not very big. Yeah, 13 yards, 34 yards, and then there was one 89-yard response. That was huge after Texas cut it to 8 right after
mm,
the interception. I think the interception was kind of taken back. Whatever happened there, but um yeah, Georgia responded and had a really nice drive, but that was their only drive where they got things going, where they strung together multiple first downs. But yeah, it'll be interesting.
And Georgia loves starting slow, and I don't think they can afford it in this spot. Not in this game. And yeah, sure, it's in Atlanta. Be like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be home game for Georgia. And there will be Texas fans there,
Yeah.
and there will be a lot of them. So I'm not. This isn't a home field advantage situation for Georgia. Like there will be a lot of Texas fans there, so I'm not worried about that at all.
Yeah, real quick here, in terms of, I talked about this a couple other videos or a couple other teams. Opponent adjusted defensive efficiency, Texas is number one in the country. What that basically means is against an average opponent. So take strength of schedule out of it. Think everything like they are the top most efficient defense in the country. That is crazy. Let's think about that for a second. This Texas team with Steve Sarkisian, Mr. Offensive Guru himself, is the top defensive efficient team in the country. That is incredible. Going against a quarterback who has struggled. When has he put it together for 4 quarters? We have not seen that. I think he's going to have to. I don't think you're going to get bailed out by whatever happened in Austin a couple months ago to happen again here. I think Texas is going to come ready to play. What I saw last week from them was a national championship caliber team. I have not seen that from
Mm.
Georgia in a long time. Yes, they took care of business against Tennessee at home. I think this is a much different beast, a much different beast for Georgia to go up against.
Is that the Johnny Nansen effect kind of being inserted? I know that Pete Kwiatkowski has done a great job calling plays, and that the players love him and they believe in his play calling ability. But you gotta believe, I mean, just everywhere Johnny Nansen goes, he just it improves whatever defense is there. And I know Johnny Nansen's not the one calling plays,
I mean,
but I mean, right?
he's very impressed with him. Obviously, Jeff Choate was a very good D coordinator as well. And I think last year, I think the surprising part is I think they had the stars last year. Obviously, everyone knew Sweat and Murphy up the middle there, Ford as well, veteran linebacker for him. So it is interesting to see. And even battling through some injuries in the secondary and whatnot, it's been awesome. I mean, what they have done, getting 11 guys to do the right thing on just about every damn play. They suffocated A&M. They absolutely suffocated. That's a good running back. That's a good running team. And if Georgia can't run the football, good luck to Carson Beck. And now it'll be interesting to see him use his legs. We saw him do that more and more throughout the season as it got going and kind of rely upon that when they needed it. I know he doesn't love to do that, but in a game like this, maybe you do see him, and that could be the difference. If you are not putting together the ball on the ground, if you are struggling to get open, right, like in different games, certain third down spots, it could be really interesting to see Carson Beck take that with his legs. But yeah, I'm with you here. I think the right play is to be on Texas here, which is crazy. This is how power rankings work. This is how, like, we saw Texas and Georgia play each other in Austin a couple months ago, and Georgia won by 15 points, and now Texas is sitting here 2.5 point favorites at a neutral site. Yeah, it's wild.
Marshall. Marshall travels to Louisiana. All right. Louisiana's going to be out without Ben Woolridge. I don't think it matters that much. As the season's gone on, we know Chandler Fields has experience. We know Chandler Fields is pretty solid. This line is at 5.5, though, right? And now that big part of that is, Marshall being on the road, but Marshall's been playing some dang good football recently. 5.5 to me feels like a lot of points here. It's just on the road, right? It's tough to it's tough to take a team on the road here in the Sun Belt against a Louisiana team that kind of felt like the team of destiny in the Sun Belt, right? You had that one slip up to South Alabama, who, by the way, is a pretty good football team. All right, let's not
When they're
forget about
playing
that.
well too, they are
Yeah,
dangerous.
they're very dangerous. Major Applewhite. It'll be tough picking them in the bowl game because you don't know what South Alabama team you're going to get, right? But Major Applewhite is a dang good offensive coordinator there. Gio Lopez, Jamal Pritchett, Bothwell. They got good talent there. But Marshall, I mean, in the Sun Belt East, which was an absolute crazy spectacle. I mean, Marshall lost one game in the Sun Belt, and it was a fourth quarter lead that they blew.
Yeah, they just choked it away to Georgia Southern, right?
Yeah, so I like let's not forget about how good Marshall has been playing. Right, they're 9-3 on the year. They have good wins in the Sun Belt. You went to Old Dominion and found a way to win that game. Uh, you absolutely beat the piss out of Appalachian State. You beat James Madison in overtime and you found a way to come back in that football game late and send it to overtime and do your job there.
Your also
I
only
think
losses
Marshall's
out of
pretty good.
conference are Ohio State and Virginia Tech. And I know maybe those teams are having quote unquote disappointing seasons, but they're still supremely talented teams compared to the rest of the Sun Belt. So they're not absolute bad losses at all.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I do think though Louisiana has better wins. I think they do have a better team. I don't know. This might sound crazy, but I might give Louisiana a slight coaching edge, which might sound crazy to some Sunbelt fans, but I I like Charles Huff. I don't love him. Is that crazy? Maybe I'm crazy.
No, I don't think that's crazy at all. I mean, he does deserve a hell of a job for what he's done with this
Oh
team
yeah,
this year and putting him in a
and in
spot.
past years too. Last year didn't look great, but he's done really good with this Marshall program.
And in close games too. I've been impressed with how they've handled things. Right, you saw the comeback win last, or not comeback, but kind of comeback win against Old Dominion, comeback against James Madison, right, taking UL Monroe, down to the wire. It's been really impressive, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess looking at it, Doc Holliday had this team buzzing pretty good, but I mean Charles Huff also had to deal with the move to the Sun Belt as well, and I would say that that's a bit of a talent upgrade. I would say, even though the CUSA that he played in, or Doc Holliday played in, was a little bit more effective, but I I think Marshall's pretty good. I think I'm gonna take Louisiana win Marshall cover. I know it's kind of a weird way to do that. I think that this could middle. I think this is going to be a close game. All right, I think the backdoor covers in play. I think this could be a one possession game in the fourth quarter. I really do believe that this is going to be a great football game, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of gonna fade here. I like Louisiana to cover even in the spot. I think being at home is a big deal. The way that they do stop the run is very important. Right, they're top five in the Sun Belt. They're also offensive efficiency. I know a lot of that is with Woolridge, but there's not been a crazy drop off with Fields. They are very lucky to have some experience there behind their starting quarterback. We've talked about that with some teams battling injuries and maybe there being a steep drop off. I haven't quite experienced that yet. And so it gives me confidence in this offense to get it going here. And also on third down, Louisiana is so good. And Marshall's actually really good getting off the field there. So that'd be interesting to see the dynamics there. But what Marshall does so well is run the football, right? Braxton, Turner, all those guys there, a couple running backs that they do like to rotate through. Louisiana Lafayette does not give up explosive run plays. They are second in the Sun Belt in fewest amount of 10 plus rushing yard plays. And if you want to stay ahead of the chains, you want to get off the field on third down, which you've been not great at. That's got to be a spot where that has to win here at home, and also put Marshall in spot. Yes, they have come back from behind, but it's not been like crazy, insurmountable leads late in the game. And credit to them too, they have not wavered from their, you know, formula to win football games. Their team, we talked about it with Iowa State, we talked about it with other teams where if you get down early, Marshall does not waver from running the football, which is awesome. And I do credit Charles Huff and that staff for staying consistent, true to who they are, and realizing that's a long football game. 60 minutes is a lot of time. Your best chance to win is doing what you are good at offensively and just putting points up on the board. Yeah, but I also think Louisiana here, great football. Even after Woolridge run out, I was really impressed with how they beat Troy, a Troy team that's playing good football. Right, they ended up on kind of a hot streak towards the end there, winning 3 of their last 4 and almost beating Arkansas State as well. So yeah, I like Louisiana Lafayette. Sucks that it's probably not going to be for a playoff spot for them, but I still think this means a lot to a lot of people. The Sun Belt has been one of our favorite conferences to cover this year, past couple years, and it obviously means a ton. It's in Louisiana too. I wish there was, I like the home field in conference championship games, but I think it would be cool for them to play in like the Superdome or maybe go to Birmingham, whatever it may be. Um, you know, whatever.
I'm always a more games on campus, the better kind of guy. But I don't know. I'm a yes. I just I like that, man. I
I'm with you
like that.
too. I'm with you too. But I also like it sucks that Marshall won their like this is a division, right? So like it's not like they're playing each other. It's not like you can compare the two like season outputs. It was based on different poll metrics, I think it ended up being depending on where Louisiana and Marshall were at and ranked to have home field advantage. So it's not like they played each other and like Louisiana deserved to have home field advantage, that much more than Marshall if it's divisions. I think it would be interesting. But yeah, I'm with you though. In terms of more games, the better on campus. Happy for those fans, those seniors to have another home game opportunity to play in front of their home crowd. And also, I do think it is nice that you don't have to ask these fan bases to travel to neutral sites and to pay the extra money, right? They can just kind of stay at home and pack, the stadium, for their home team, whoever it may be. Cajun Field.
It'll be packed. It'll be packed. Clemson, SMU. SMU's favored by 2.5. SMU is favored in their first season in the ACC. We got an Arizona State team, their first year in the ACC. They're in this championship game. We got Texas, their first year in the SEC. They're in the championship game. SMU, first year in the ACC. They're in the championship game. Oregon, their first year in the Big Ten. They're in the championship game. I mean, a lot of first year teams in this realignment finding ways, sneaking ways in their conference championship game. Kevin Jennings has been playing really well. Right? I think this defense has also been opportunistic. I think this defense has done enough. I think there have been games that have been issues, right? And obviously, as the season's gone on, you look at that BYU loss when they were 10.5 or 11.5 point favorites. It ended up being one of the better losses of any of these college football playoff teams, and we can have that discussion maybe later about like what happens if SMU loses. Can they still make the college football playoffs? Should they? Right? Obviously, they probably should, but I I like Clemson in this game. Sorry, I just think that there's a I don't know how big the talent gap is here actually in this game, but I do think the physicality, like how many physical teams has SMU played this year?
Duke.
It's like there might be a new level of physicality. And by the way, if they do show up and win this game pretty handily, I might be liking them in their chances, not to win the national championship, but to do damage, right, in the
Clemson.
college football playoffs. Yeah, if SMU handles Clemson, I
Oh,
think SMU. I'm saying like I would like SMU. This is the game that I need to verify that SMU is going to one be able to compete on this field with some of these other national championship contending teams. But I just like Clemson in the spot. I like them +2.5. I like them to win straight up. It's one of those games where, yeah, could you get a Cade Klubnik disaster class? Yeah, absolutely. But I do think that Phil Maffa, they might be pushing the Phil Maffa button a lot this game, and I think that's helpful. Keeping the ball in your hands, keeping the ball out of Kevin Jennings and that explosive offense's hands with the SMU. I think Clemson is in a spot right here where I think the wrong team might be favored.
yeah, and we did talk about SMU. I think early in the season they had a pretty high turnover margin, right? And it was potential one of the favorites there. It's kind of cooled down, which is nice. Clemson, on the other hand, is a team that leads the ACC in their own turnover margin, which is nice. SMU, is one of the more opportunistic defenses, though. Right, they do have 15 interceptions on the year. I've been really impressed with them recently. Right, I thought the Virginia game was a game that they potentially could have struggled in, as well as California. Obviously, I know Mendoza didn't play, but that was obviously very, very impressive. yeah, I think we saw a pretty healthy Clemson team take a really good football team right down to the wire, and they just probably should have won if they could just tackle Sellers just a little bit more. I, which nobody has done that, by the
I
way.
think a couple teams are asking that question.
Yeah,
Why couldn't we tackle him?
I think
Maybe he's like 245 pounds.
it's just
Maybe that's why.
it's ridiculous. But yeah, I'm with you here. If you can get Phil Maffa going, that would be massive. I like the way these receivers are playing right now for Clemson. Antonio Williams, you saw him get going. Wesco,
Wow.
Moore,
Wesco had a ridiculous catch the other day.
yeah, and the tight end as well, Brain Stall. So it'll be interesting to see how consistent they can be. That's what I was a little frustrated with at times. The Clemson offense would get stagnant, and I think it would help. Kolubnik if they can be a little bit more, consistent down in and down out for them, getting open, making big time catches. That was how they had a lot of their success early in the game, though, was moving the football down the field, throwing 50-50 jump balls to Moore and Wesco and other guys like that, letting Williams run after the catch. Yeah, I'm with you here. I like Clemson in this spot. I don't love it, but I was impressed with Clemson. I have their ticket right from back in the season to win the ACC plus 350. So I'm grateful to Syracuse and Fran Brown as well, which is nice to see. They kind of backdoor their way into it, obviously playing out a conference game last week and needing something to happen. And Miami did end up losing to let Clemson get in and keep their playoff hopes alive and also the ACC championship hopes alive. I do want to say this. I do think SMU should absolutely be in if they lose to Clemson, unless a quarterback gets hurt. But even Preston Stone's, I think, pretty good quarterback there. So I don't see much going on that deserves SMU of losing a playoff spot because you lose your conference championship game. I think that adds a precedent and potentially puts us down a path forward that you could see serious problems. The ACC has already gotten snubbed right last year. Not that that shouldn't matter, but I just don't want to continue to see that happen. I think SMU deserved to win, deserved to be in the playoff after their regular season performance. I do not think Alabama, nor South Carolina, nor Miami, nor Ole Miss deserve to be in after that. Their regular season, SMU took care of business. Other teams couldn't. Now their schedule, yeah, it's not the best at all. I think Duke, though, right, they're a 9-win team. Louisville, very impressive. I think people give them flowers. Obviously, the BYU game out of conference would have been a nice signature win, especially if you were to be 12-0.
Pitt kind of free fell after starting
Yes, yes.
season pretty hot. So when you look at like metrically too, you might look at like, okay, Clemson, what do they need to do? They need to run the ball, and you're like, okay, well, SMU, how do they look stop the run? You're looking at it, you're like 2.8 yards per carry. Oh my gosh, like why are we not pounding SMU right now to stop the run? Call a quick timeout on that. Okay, if you look at some of these teams that they played against, like how well is Stanford going to be running the ball, right? How well did Pittsburgh run the ball down the stretch? How well has Virginia run the ball this season? How well has Florida State run the ball this season? Really, like the and BYU. I think Elgin Martin might have gotten hurt in that game. By the way, TCU, are they really committed to running the football? Not early in the season, no. I the team that really could run the ball and chose to run the ball against them. I mean, Isaac Brown had over 100 yards and 10 carries. For Louisville when they played against SMU. That game just kind of flipped on its head. In that third quarter, uh, when SMU put up some numbers and then held on. Late in the game. Yeah, I like Clemson in the spot, man. Sorry, I get why SMU's favored, but also I don't.
Do you think they're going to struggle? Like Kevin Jennings has been really good, right? Most of the year, just about all the games. Do you think that he might struggle in this game? Like, is Clemson going to have to outscore SMU, or is their defense going to really be able to get after Jennings in this offense? Smith,
I think Clemson can score. I
yeah.
do, but yeah, don't let him get hot though, right? Don't let them control the football. Don't make your defense stay on the field. Get off the field on third downs. Keep Jennings in the pocket. I think this should be a good game, man. I think this will be a good game, but you and I both like Clemson here, which I think for good reason. I think for good reason. Let's head over to the Big Ten championship game being played in Indianapolis. Penn State is playing against Oregon. Okay, after a little bit of a thank you from Michigan over there, um, going to Columbus and beating Ohio State. Because of that, Penn State is now playing in the Big Ten championship. Oregon's undefeated this year, right? And I think people haven't really been paying attention to Oregon in recent weeks, but I it's not like been overly dominating. Like when you watch them play, you're like, okay, this is a really good football team. But is it the best football team in the country? I mean, probably because they haven't stumbled and they did beat Ohio State and they found ways to win. The Wisconsin game scares me a little bit though. Right. That was a really good secondary that they're playing against. And that Ohio State secondary that they played was a Ohio State secondary that was not playing good football at that time. Penn State, despite getting absolutely shredded by Max Brosmer, whenever Max Brosmer wanted to, but who hasn't Max Brosmer shredded at this point, right? I'll pick Oregon here, right, to win and cover, but I don't feel good about it at all. I think Penn State could definitely be in this football game. I think it'll come down to, is Dylan Gabriel going to make good decisions? Is he going to have another one of those stinkers, right? He's good for one or two every single year. He had a stinker against Wisconsin. They found a way to win. I think you can't have a stinker against Penn State, all right? I think Penn State's going to try to run the football. I don't know how good they're going to be running the football, if they're going to be able to, but if this is a low scoring football game and Penn State holds Oregon to, say, under 24 points, I think Penn State's got a real chance to win this football game. I think they're physical enough to match up with them, although Oregon is a very physical team on their own. They've had a good defense. They've played well. Their quarterback play's been awesome. They've had good receivers. I just So I'll take Oregon to win and cover because that's what they do. And I don't believe in the eye test, right, with Penn State. I don't believe in it, right? Like, I don't see Penn State as some elite football team. But I do think that in this season specifically, there are a lot of teams that can compete with a lot of other teams, and you just never know. It's also a lot further journey for Oregon, traveling a couple more than one time zone over there to Indianapolis. Uh, Not that Penn State's right next to Indianapolis because it's not, but uh, I, I just think it'll be tough for Oregon, but I think they'll do it. But I don't feel good about it at all.
No, I don't either. And you look at Oregon, and obviously like efficiency ratings symmetrically, they're obviously very very high. No surprise there, being 12-0 and looking good, doing it. It has been interesting because you look at their statistic profile, and it's like, well, they're not elite against the run, and they don't have elite turnover margin, and they kind of penalize a lot and whatever. But to me, the big stat, and I love to bring this up in Penn State in their big games, and this hurts them is third and fourth down. They are not very good at, right? We look at the Ohio State game this year. Look at Michigan, Ohio State last year, right? Penn State was 3 for 11 on their own third down. They were 1 for 2 on fourth down. They struggled in the red zone. Like when the margins get small in big time plays, they have struggled. I get there's a lot of volatility there because it is just like one or two plays here and there that can make the difference. But repeatedly, we've seen these Penn State teams come up short because of that. We also saw Ohio State in that game earlier this year in the Happy Valley kind of moved the football. They had almost 100 more yards. They had, almost 50% from third down. And that's one thing Oregon does very well. They convert at the top in the Big Ten. They are 49.66%. Converting third downs and then getting off the field there at 31%. That's second in the Big Ten. Those are stats. That's where you really want to be if you're Oregon, especially in this game going, not on the road, but you said it. It's going to be interesting crossing those timelines. We'll see what happens moving forward if the Big Ten decides to switch from, Indianapolis. I don't think they'll ever go out west, but I do wonder if Minneapolis would be a nice spot for that, kind of meet in the middle there for these teams. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting. I do worry about Oregon because I think this is an interesting year because we don't see. I don't think that Oregon's elite, by the way. I really don't. I was impressed with how they played against Washington. Yes, impressed with how they played against Michigan and Illinois. Blah blah blah. I get that, but I do think like something has to be said about like them just kind of being the de facto number one because the SEC beat up on each other because Ohio State, struggling in big spots this year so far. I don't know. I mean, they were a penalty and a Will Howard goof from losing to Ohio State, and like, how quickly does that change our perception of Oregon if those things happen? Like, I thought Ohio
How
State,
about a Mad Maddox legacy drive?
or yeah, or Boise State beating them, and maybe people calling for them to be missing the playoffs because they have a G5 loss, even though I think
Or just Wisconsin not giving up 10 points in the fourth quarter?
that too. So it is. They are not perfect at all. I'm with you here. I'm going to take Oregon minus 3.5. When I first saw that line, I was all ready to jump on Oregon because I think Penn State is, extremely gettable. But I also want to sit back and be like, well, maybe Oregon isn't this elite team, and maybe that number is at that spot for a good reason, not because Penn State is being overrated, but because Oregon and Vegas knows that maybe they're going to come back down to earth, and this will be closer than we think. But
I think Oregon is an elite team, but they're not like a tier above everyone else, right? Because normally when you have an undefeated Big Ten team headed into a Big Ten championship game, you're looking at that team in a separate tier that is so far ahead of that tier two in the Big Ten. But I don't really think that there's like that normal tier two, which you would normally include, like your tier one in these last couple of years has been Ohio State and Michigan, right? And then your tier two has been really just Penn State, kind of in their own, right? If you think about it, and then there's like that tier three, which kind of includes pretty much
Iowa,
everyone else. Iowa, uh, Iowa and what have you, right?
certain
The
years
Jeff Brom year, I
Wisconsin,
guess.
yeah, Purdue.
Certain years, Wisconsin, Purdue, in the Jeff Brom years, Maryland sometimes, right? I don't think that there's a that tier one includes Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, um, and I think you could argue Indiana's in the bottom of that tier, or at least at the top of tier two. But I think that tier one is a little bit.
It's more
It
crowded.
includes, yeah, it's a little bit more crowded. So, and it's not as far away from that tier two. You know what I'm saying?
I do want to ask you here if you're Oregon or an Oregon fan, whatever it may be, you're probably glad you get Penn State instead of Ohio State.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. I'm sure Oregon fans were cheering when Michigan, as that clock expired. So it'd be interesting to see. I mean,
Now,
I feel
If you're
like,
Penn State here, though, not that like you could have done nothing. Like let's say Ohio State won and they went on to play Oregon. Like you could have done nothing and just sat there and probably be the 6th seed, right? I do
yeah,
think because of the way it played out, like you're in line, depending on what happens in the SEC there, you're in line for the number 1 seed or the number 5 seed. And I think those are two very, very advantageous spots to be in, right? Depending on how things shake out. But yeah,
yeah, that five seed is looking like it's going to be a really nice spot to be in. But yeah, you're right. Oregon will either be the one or the five.
which by the way, real quick, you could play Clemson, Arizona State, or Boise State. It'll be really interesting to see how it shakes down and where the playoff spots are at heading in,
Or SMU. I don't know.
or if SMU loses. Yeah, yeah, because you might put Clemson ahead of SMU. So much is gonna happen, man. It's gonna be awesome. I just
South Carolina. Anyone? Anyone?
listen real quick about that. I know this is the Big Ten, but I don't think you should put a precedent in that you got to honor the results on the field. Like same reason why Ohio State, if they're in the same loss category as Penn State, I know like home field matters, and I know it was a close loss at Alabama, but I don't know. I really don't know. To me, I know you played them on the road, but you lost, and you should have won. And Alabama's not very good, right? Not great at all. So it's not like it's an unbelievable quality loss that we thought it was. Maybe 6 months or a couple months ago.
That's fair. Well, with that being said, let's head over to the counter now. Now that we've made our picks for our 9 conference championship games, what do we actually like to put our hard earned cash on? On the season, I'm down 1 unit, basically 40 and 38 on the year. You're up a unit and a half, 36 and 30 on the year. This is my time. All right, I've got 5 picks for you guys. I'm gonna start feeding you guys. These are gonna be spoon fed. These I've looked at a lot because I do not want to go down on the year heading into bull season because bull season can be crazy. Even though traditionally we do really well on this show during bull season, but I'm gonna start this off with UNLV +4, and I know CD does not like that at all. But I, you're getting 4. I know you're on the road, but man, this UNLV defense is tough. Man, is that coaching staff I think better than Boise State's coaching staff. I think those things matter in the conference championship game for all the reasons that we talked about before. I like UNLV catching points here. I think they can win this football game. I also think that it can be a close football game. All right, just because Boise State wins doesn't mean UNLV can't cover. Give me UNLV +4.
Yeah, listen, I could go either way with that one. Didn't feel strongly about Boise State to put it on the counter, so obviously I hope Boise State wins. But listen, I wouldn't be surprised if UNLV does as well. They would be really interesting to see in the playoffs, right, and how that shakes out. I guess they could still lose and cover, so I guess that's kind of moot. But anyways, for me, I got Tulane -6 on the road at Army. Would have loved to get it at 4, but I think 6 is still enough for me. I hate chasing points there, but it's fine. We'll settle in. I think Army is going to get got here in a similar way that Tulane, got Navy, similar way that Notre Dame got them. Obviously, big gap between Notre Dame and Tulane, but I think there is a big gap between Tulane and Army, and Tulane will be pissed off. Very good coaching staff there. Yeah.
This is the 4th time this season that you've bet on Tulane, and right now you are 2-1. So see if you can get that to 3-1 right there. I like that pick for you, but I don't like it at 6, so I can't take it. I will I'll lay 2.5 with Miami, Ohio as my next pick. And I know you don't love that either because I know you like Ohio, but I just think Brett Gabbert is playing too good of football right now, and their defense is too good right now for that to be ignored. All right. I think the Red Hawks are destined. I think Chuck Barton's going to have these boys ready. I know Tim Alvin will have his boys ready too. And this will be a close game. All right. Could be within a field goal. But I like Miami in this spot. I don't know that Miami has a coaching edge, late in games here. I think it's pretty even when I'm looking at these coaching matchups, but I like Miami, Ohio to cover 2.5.
Yeah, listen, I wouldn't be surprised there. Although I like Ohio, and that you know that if you watched our video, real quick, I am 3-1 with Tulane, by the way. So
Oh, 3-1. So this is your 5th time
yeah,
betting on
I
them?
took them against Tulane in week 6. I took them
You took them
in
last week.
week
You took them
12
2 weeks
against
ago.
Navy. I took them in week 14. Wait, did I totally miscount that? Oh yeah, then I took them to week 9. So yeah, week 6, week 9, week
Oh,
12, and week 14, and now we're back at them.
mm,
Um, Sticking with the Ohio and Miami game, I kind of like the under more than picking a side here. I'm going to go under 44.5. I think the past couple of years, that line would have absolutely cashed. I think these defenses are very, very good. And I think they'll get after, these teams in a close one. I think both teams want to run the ball and shorten the game. Both coaching staffs are very well. They're disciplined. I worry about turnovers, absolutely. But I also think, again, the discipline here is going to happen, and they understand that turnovers would be crucial in this game with such fine margins. Under 44.5.
I know you said that you think in past years that this line would have cashed. I will say the history of this since 2017, it has gone over in every single game.
Well, I'm talking about. Oh yeah. But this, no. There's no way.
Yeah,
Go back. No,
the close.
it was 17-7 2 years ago.
No, that was 2016. At least what I'm looking at right now.
Let me look it up. Let me look it up.
Yeah, 30-20, 30-16, 37-21, 35-33, 24-21, 30-28. 45-28. This is at least from the Miami Redhawks football stats page, scheduling page.
Okay, maybe that's a little bit more accurate than Wikipedia.
But I'm with you though. I would have thought the same thing. I just maybe when you get like really good athletes, maybe when you get the best athletes in the MAC on the field, maybe there's points scored.
Okay,
But I do think that line though 44.5 is higher than it would have been. I know the overs cash in all these games, but I do think 44.5. If you look back at those spreads, I'm sure that those spreads were actually shorter and smaller. Or
then
sorry, the totals were actually smaller than 44.5. So I do like that angle. It's not bad.
no. But in 2022, I will say Toledo won 17-7.
Toledo did in the Mac. I'm talking about Miami, Ohio versus
Oh no,
Ohio
I'm talking about the
games.
MAC championship here. I'm talking about in Full Field.
Oh, sorry.
Then we're tripping
Uh,
here.
then we were totally off track. I was talking about Miami, Ohio versus Ohio games. You were talking about MAC championship games.
Okay, now we're on the same page here.
Now we're on the same page. So actually, that's kind of unstoppable force meets immovable object right there. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't hate the angle right there at all. Uh, the angle that I like that I'm going to head to next over in the SEC, I'm laying it with 2.5. I'm laying Texas 2.5. That's what I'm doing. All right, I'm not going to think about it too hard. I think they're a better football team than Georgia. I think they're playing better football than Georgia right now. I know that they played them last time and got kind of smacked, but I think they're going to have a better game plan. And for all the reasons before that we talked about why both of us like Texas, there's no reason why, if I like Texas so much in the spot, that I can't lay them 2.5 here.
I hate going against Kirby in big games, but I think you're right. Don't overthink it. Like Texas is a better football team than Georgia. Neutral site. Yeah, I like Texas in that. And by the way, Georgia can still lose and get in, so it's not like they're playing for their lives. Um, but even then, like they've had a couple duds here too as well. Moving on from me, I actually have two more. I added one at mid show because kind of got convinced there. Arizona State -2 against Iowa State in the Big 12 here.
Boom.
You're on that with me there. I think
Let's go.
it's again, don't overthink it. Arizona State's better than Iowa State. They're playing really good football. This team is not destiny, but damn it, man, they're really, really good right now. I think not that there's a coaching edge, but I love the way Kenny Dillingham has them firing. Offensively, they get out to a fast start, and they can get in a good spot for Arizona State.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm laying Arizona State -2. Come on. For all the reasons that you mentioned. So I'm not going to repeat a bunch of what you said, but I'm going to stick in that game. All right. I'm looking at that total, and I am Mr. Unders guy, although recently I've been doing really well with my overs. I've been doing really well. I'm going to stay with the over here. It's at 50.5. I think Arizona State gets off to a hot start. I think they score 21 points before halftime, and then I think they're going to trying to chew clock, run that game out, but I also think that Iowa State's going to have to throw the football, and they got to score to stay in this football game and keep up with the efficient offense that is Arizona State, the sneaky efficient offense that has been Arizona State.
That's not crazy. I like that for you. Really, really close to hopping on with you, but I won't because sometimes when we do hop on, like when I hop on late with you, it usually does not work. So I'll stay away for the good of the cause. My last one here, going to the Sun Belt here, I like Louisiana -5.5. I know you're on
That's a
Marshall.
team. That's a team that you've been betting on pretty much all season.
Again, yeah, and it did well with UL Monroe a couple weeks ago. It did well against,
Well, didn't do well week 12 against South Alabama.
but did well week 10 against Texas State. Also had them, I thought, earlier than that, but can't really find it. Regardless, though, yeah, 5.5, not ideal. Would have liked to get it, I think, a little bit earlier when it was closer to 3.5, but still not enough to keep me away. Louisiana.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. Good luck to us right there. So you're sticking with 4 picks?
Yeah.
A little even Steven right there. That's fine. I like these picks that we got this week. I mean, I don't love your Louisiana, and you don't love my UNLV and Miami, Ohio, but I think generally, I think we got a chance to do some damage this week.
We're hovering right
I think
on
a lot of
positive or negative right here. We're a couple units up, so it's going to be this is a big week here.
I think last conference championship, and I'd have to double check this, but I think almost every single favorite won last year, which doesn't maybe bode well for us this year because we took a lot of we took almost every single favorite, at least betting on it, at least because what we have one, two, three, four, five, six favorites of the nine conference championship games. Sorry, I guess five because we both are on Arizona State, but that is all right. I'm on the last year's conference championship results. I guess the favorite won in almost every single game except three. The favorite won 7-3 last year.
I'd take that. The problem is too, this year's been so whack. Like shit's gonna go down. I have a feeling, or maybe it's gonna go with chalk, and maybe we'll be fine. But as long as Tulane, Arizona State, Louisiana, what do you have? You have LB, you have UNLV. Yeah,
That's the only dog.
yeah.
But
M Ohio. It'll be interesting. It'll be very very interesting.
it'll be interesting. That's going to do it for us. That's going to be our conference championship previews. Guys, make sure if you like this content, like the video, and also consider subscribing if you're on YouTube. If you're listening on Spotify, we haven't forgot about you. All right, make sure you give us a follow, maybe a 5-star rating. All right, as you're listening to us on your way to work, maybe one morning. We appreciate you guys and all that you do for us and supporting us and allowing us to do this. We're continuing to want this to grow. We got big plans for this thing. This year we're going to finish out the season the way that we've been doing it in bowl season, and the off season we're going to do our best. But we got big plans for next year. All right, big plans. There's going to be a lot of improvements, so hopefully you guys can stick around with us for that and hop on the train while it's hot, while there's room, while we're open. Well, we'll always be open, but and then make sure also too you're tuning in for you got to be subscribed if you want to participate in our bowl pool, which we'll have a prize that'll be named at a later date. So make sure you guys are just staying tuned and staying sharp, right? I mean, we're almost here. It's almost bowl season. This is where you got to be sharp, all right? Because I know you got your office bowl pools. You got your, you know, you want to be betting money on these bowl games. You don't want to be just sleepwalking through this bowl season. We know you guys want to get active. You have to stay here if you want to stay informed about each and every one of these teams and every one of these games because there's opt-outs, there's transfers, there's coaching changes, there's everything. We have it all right here. CD, anything for us on the way out?
You nailed it all. Been working hard. Cannot believe it is already the postseason of college football. The greatest thing in all of sports. The regular season is over. But like Matthew said, we have a lot to do. We have a lot to talk about. So make sure you're staying here and riding with us the whole time. And yeah, hopefully everyone had safe travels, good Thanksgiving, and enjoy the slate that is this week. Obviously, 9 games, but 9 very, very important and meaningful games.
100%. And we'll see y'all in the next one.